to beautiful downtown Nanaimo and the Vancouver Island Conference Centre. Thank you to the co-hosts Inspired Nanaimo and the City of Nanaimo for today's talk. Today's kickoff speaker series event is intended to be the start of promoting a shared vision of becoming the most successful city in British Columbia. You're all here, so I trust you'll agree that we can get there together. Inspire Nanaimo is a pivot point for common messages, values, accountability measures, and leadership best practices across the community. And most importantly, we will inspire Nanaimo. So introducing Todd Latham, today's inspiration on rejuvenating our city. Todd has vast experience across all 5 pillars of any successful city. In the built environment, Todd plays a key role in the Canadian Network of Asset Managers, the Brownfields Network, the Urban Institute, and the Ontario Society of Professional Engineers. Economically, Todd advises on the Future Industry Leader Program in Shanghai and the Places to Invest Council in Washington, D.C. Culture. Well, Todd has his own creative design and publishing firm, Actual Media, Inc. And in the natural environment, Todd is a member of 2041, an international group committed to the preservation of a whole continent, Antarctica. Socially, and I'll bet you didn't know this, Todd plays Scrabble competitively. Welcome to Todd Latham.
And I'll take on any one of you online and Facebook on Scrabble. So just like me and we'll play a game. Thank you very much, Inspire Nanaimo, and especially to Wally, who invited me here today, make me do double duty. I spoke yesterday at the BC Public Works Association conference and gave a keynote on innovation. And so today what I thought I would do is give this presentation in 2 parts. The first part is on innovation and the second part on cities. Because I think to inspire a city, you need to innovate. So let me get started by first telling you I am from Toronto. And to make sure you all have your mind at ease, I do not smoke crack, and nor have I ever. Toronto is actually the site of the Congress in 2014. The American Public Works Association brings up about 8,000 people to Toronto in the summer of next year. And that's the first time since 1988 this Congress has been to Canada. So this is a big deal for not only for Toronto, but all of Canada as we build our cities, which of course are the foundation of our cities, our public works. On innovation, the Conference Board of Canada recently released a report. The report's called Canada's Competitiveness and Innovation Doldrums. And this came out about 2 weeks ago. And it's very timely because it says overall Canada remained at the 14th spot, but we're down from 9th in 2009. And on the innovation side, we are down to 25, where we used to be ranked 15th. In only 3 years, we've dropped 10 points in the international ranking on innovation. What are we doing wrong? What are we not doing right? And I'll get into some of that. And of course, innovation is very important in public works and very important in cities and how we change the way we do things. So next slide, please. Can I click it? Yeah, perfect. What is innovation? I did a little survey on Facebook and on LinkedIn, just asking some people what they thought innovation was. Those are the first 3 answers there. And the last one is from a guy named Greg Sattel of innovationexcellence.com, and I recommend you go into that website. Great way to think outside the box, and his definition was the one that resonated the most with me. And in his article about the definition of innovation, he talks about penicillin not being an innovation, but an accident. Banting left the petri dish out by accident and came back and he saw stuff growing on it, and from there he developed penicillin. So that's not an innovation, that's an accident, and those things happen. What is an innovation in the area of discovery like that is DNA and the double helix. They worked at that problem for years and years and years, trying to figure out how to break the code. When they finally, Watson and Crick finally came up with that, that was an innovation. So there's how you define what is an innovation and what is not. Every organization needs to do innovation. Private sector companies pay billions of dollars, spend billions of dollars in R&D. Do governments do investment in innovation? Not much, if at all. They should. They should have an entire innovation investment component, a whole R&D investment component. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So as I mentioned, I'm going to get into the first part is going to be about innovation. The second part I'll go into cities. So which one is a flower or which one is a weed? You don't know. The idea here is innovation and ideas are like flowers and weeds. You got to let them grow before you can determine which one's going to work. It's impossible to tell which one is going to be a flower, which one's going to be a weed, so let them happen. For example, in the Netherlands, recently, they had a problem where there was garbage strewed all around a park. And there's garbage bins all over the place, but the garbage wasn't going into the bins. So they got together, a group of people, and they said, what are we going to do about this? Well, let's double the fines. And somebody says, well, why don't we give them a reward if they put it in? Oh, that's a stupid idea. So they doubled the fines. Garbage stayed there. 3-4 weeks later, there was no difference in the garbage. They fined more people. They got a few extra guilders, but the garbage collection didn't change. So they went back to the other idea, which turned out to be the flower. And the idea was to put little recording devices in the flaps of the garbage bins, so that every time somebody put in a piece of garbage, it would tell you a joke. And lo and behold, pretty soon, people were going around and picking up not even their own garbage and putting it into bins just so they could hear a different joke. Really small innovation, great idea, and the place was cleaned up within weeks. So before you pick flower or weed, let them grow. What's that? Is that a dot? Is that a seed, a rock, the back of a cartoon figure's head? What I'm trying to get at here is we've got to shake off our river of experience. We all go through life doing the same things over and over again. We have the same thought process. We're creatures of habit. So we're conditioned to think that's a dot, that's a blob of black ink. I know it is, don't tell me it's anything different. But we ought to change the way we think, change our river of behaviors. And the way to do that is just to keep asking why and what if. Ask a lot of whys and what if. Don't stop asking why and what if. For example, what if highways had different color coding depending on the speed limits? So instead of having a sign there, you don't know what is this, a 40 zone or 50 zone? There'd be a little strip that had maybe it was green for 30 to 50 kilometers and it was blue for high. Why not? What if the problem were 10 times larger? If you're sitting down, you're trying to figure out a problem, just imagine it's 10 times larger. Would it change the way you solved it? Maybe, maybe not. But think of different ways, change your perspectives on problems. And asking intelligent why questions over and over and over again usually gets uncomfortable, but that's when you actually get the answers to why. If you just accept the first answer that comes back from a why, you're not digging deep enough. You're not changing your perspective enough. We're all kids at heart. You have to approach the world and look at it with childlike wonder. No grown-up is too grown-up to think of new ways of doing things. When a child asks you, why is the sky blue? I'm sure this has happened to those of you who had kids when they ask that question. It just is. Or, I don't know. You blow them off. Well, that kid's going to ask, well, why? Why? And you say, okay, it's because the sky, the atmosphere reflects light, and that's why. But why does the atmosphere reflect light? You know, it'll get to a point where you're really irritated. Go to bed. But we should be doing that as adults as well. We should be asking why over and over and over again until the real answer comes out on questions. We should not be limited by the obvious. Kids are not limited by the obvious. Eventually they're trained in school that these are the way you multiply. These are the tables. This is how you do it. But we shouldn't lose track of the fact that there is different ways to learn. I had a video I played yesterday. My two daughters, I told them I was coming out here to give a presentation on innovation. And I asked them, what do you guys think innovation is? They're 9 and 11. And they said, what's innovation? I said, I'm not going to give you any more information. I want you to figure it out and give me a 1-minute video on what is innovation. And they came back with a video, and I was really surprised with it. I was quite proud of them. It was a 1 minute long. I played it yesterday. I'm not going to play it for you here today. It was basically them going around the house with their iMovie iPad and finding things that were innovative, like disposable cameras. And so it was quite cute, and they're very happy and proud that I played it yesterday. But I think what I'm trying to get at here is when you're faced with a problem at work or in your own world, ask a kid how they would solve it, and you might get some really interesting answers. Change the way you look at things. Have you heard of the Fosbury flop? Well, up until 1965 or so, everybody did the high jump this way. And he came along and did it backwards, revolutionized the sport. Everybody jumps backwards on the high jump now. Are there other ways we can innovate in sport, and cultural, business? Think things differently. Be a Fosbury flop. Innovation requires good theft. There's a book out there called Steal Like an Artist. Book by Austin Kleon. Good theft requires study and looking to many people for great ideas. It's important to give credit and to combine ideas. For example, this slide I stole from a guy named Nick Kittle of Colorado Springs. In fact, there's a few slides in this presentation I stole from Nick Kittle of Colorado Springs. He gave a presentation in Chicago 3 or 4 weeks ago on innovation, and I walked up to him afterwards and I said, can I have a copy of that? He says, you can have my entire presentation. Mix it up, add to it, make it better. I said, that's innovation. Adding, mixing, adhering. So I've done that. Another factor is in stealing ideas, make friends with other industries, people in other industries. Ask others who are tangential to what you do, what they think about a problem. Yesterday I mentioned the example of if you're having a problem with waterworks in a public utility, and you don't know the answer to the problem with your pump, why don't you go ask an aquarium operator how they do it, or a water park operator? They're dealing with pumps. They're tangential to your business, but maybe they think of it in different ways. So think about other industries that might help you look around for innovative opportunities. What's going on here? I think we could all connect the dots. The point here is it's important to share your dots and not to connect them yourself. If you're sitting in a meeting and somebody says, okay, who can connect these dots? And you're the first, I can do it, and you do the whole thing. What do the other people in the room think? They go, well, wow, this is not a very fun meeting. I didn't get involved at all. I didn't contribute at all. Share your dots. Why don't you take this and say, okay, I'll do 1 to 12. You do 13 to 24. Let's all do this problem together. Then you can all share in the success of connecting the dots and seeing that final picture. Share what you know, ask for help, and people will buy into your success. We all need to lose the fear of failure. As we already discussed, it can be difficult to tell which is a great idea and which is a terrible idea until they've had time to grow. Sometimes that means making a mistake. We have to make mistakes to learn. Kids do this all the time. They take pieces from one toy and mix it together with the other, and sometimes it breaks. Sometimes they create new toys. I think that's how Transformers came about. Great communities do this as well. They try ideas, they fail, they iterate, they modify, they try again. Inspire Nanaimo should fail at some point, or else you're not trying hard enough with new ideas. So don't be afraid to try new ideas. Lose that fear of failure. There's many times I've stood in a meeting or chaired a meeting and looked like the fool. Maybe I'm doing that right now. But the point is to lose the fear of having that happen. Otherwise, we'll never try things new, and we'll never succeed in new ideas. This is an inspiration moment from a public works friend of mine in Ontario. Obviously, that doesn't belong there. What happened here was a disconnect between the people who do the utilities and the people who put down the sidewalks. Utility guy came in and put in the guy wire. Says, okay, that's where the guy wire goes. Cement guys came along and they go, what the hell is this guy wire doing in the middle of where we're supposed to put the sidewalk? So, well, it's not our job putting the sidewalk down. Obviously, they had to fix that. And that inspired the Director of Public Works to say, no more utility coordination. We are all going to be on the same page from now on. We are not doing things in silos. Utilities, Public Works, everybody, we're going to have a one-call system. The 811 is now in Ontario. But they have an internal system, web-based utility locates and coordination system where anybody who goes out into the field has to coordinate in through this app. So maybe inspire Nanaimo, maybe you coordinate all of the groups in Nanaimo who are doing different things to make sure you're not stepping on toes or putting things where they're not supposed to be. Here's another couple of great examples of innovation, and I'll start moving on to the city stuff. The one on the left is group of University of Toronto students. They recently won the $250,000 prize, the first group to build a human-powered helicopter. And Sikorsky Company, the people who make the big helicopters, had this prize announced for 30 years. Nobody was able to do it. And the criteria was to create a flying machine that could reach 3 meters in height, fly for 60 seconds by human power alone, and stay within a 10 cubic meter area. A University of Toronto group did it first. And it's an ugly looking thing, and it's about the size of half of a football field, so it's not commercially viable. But the point is that $250,000 inspired innovation to happen. Whether what comes of that from now, who knows, but I know those University of Toronto students are going to be well received in the engineering community when they graduate. The one on the right is a gentleman by the name of Ethan Schulzer of Sandpoint, Ontario, Idaho, I should say. And he's building a tree house for himself, an actual house where he's going to live. And he got sick and tired of going up and down that ladder every day with the stuff he needed to build, and eventually he's going to have to bring his bed and stuff up there. He's doing the whole thing. So he built a bicycle-powered elevator. And it's got worldwide acclaim. The YouTube's hits are like 3 million watching this guy do this. And when you think about it, it's pretty simple. You know, you put the wires on the tire areas, and he welded some pieces together, and he's got a counterweight on the other side, and it's, wow. Innovation comes from having a problem you need to have solved. He had a problem, he didn't want to go upstairs, he made an elevator. No idea is too crazy. Do not dismiss crazy ideas. What you're seeing there is a couple of images of Elon Musk's idea for the Hyperloop. Elon Musk is the guy who is in charge of Tesla Motors. He's also the one who does SpaceX, the first commercial entity to put spacecraft in orbit. And he came up with this idea. Maybe he woke up in the middle of the night and wrote it down on a napkin. And he actually said to people, this is a crazy idea. I don't know what can happen with it, but here it is. I have no time for it. I'm busy doing electric cars and putting things in space. And he threw it out there. And now there's a group called Jumpstart Fund who is collecting money and building a fund to put this crazy idea, make it a reality. What it is a vacuum tube technology that they're proposing will whisk people from San Francisco to LA in 30 minutes. Talk about revolutionizing transportation. And that looks like fun, too. I'd go on that. No idea is too crazy. That's an actual picture. That's the Kansas City Library. What a great idea. Why not paint the outside of your library like a stack of books? I don't know how much it costs them to do that, but you certainly know where the library is now. Who speaks for infrastructure? It's all below us. You open your tap, water comes out. You don't really think about it. It has no constituency. When the pipes are sick, the bridge is feeling down, or the roads are losing weight, who do they call? Who speaks for them? Well, technology does, and we're getting to that point now where we have sensors, RF tags, smart grid, GIS, mobile apps, social media, are all helping us listen to infrastructure so we can better accommodate it. And I encourage you in Nanaimo to do more of that. Why not have cameras looking at different parts of the community so you can see what the weather's like down at the beach, or weather patterns. Maybe you already have that, I don't know. But the idea here is to apply technology so we can better see and understand our infrastructure. Finally, on the innovation side, we have to reward innovation. A great website called innocentive.com. These are two examples from Cincinnati. The first one, $10,000 is being offered to anyone to come up with a real-time sensor to monitor sewer overflows. They have a problem. They don't know how to monitor sewer overflows, so they threw out $10,000 to the first person to come up with that. And a reward was just given to this company, Fuelent, to do what they are proposing, which is to extract value from wastewater. The idea here is to inspire people with money. So if somebody has a problem and they're willing to put up $10,000, you'll get a lot of good answers and good ideas that come from it. So try that as a way of incenting people. I think we all know what that acronym stands for. Dr. Seuss applied it brilliantly. We live in a world of information overload, and it's not that we have a lack of ideas. We have too many. What do we do with them? So try to keep it simple sometimes. One way to get over creative block is by creating false traumas. So force yourself to think in different ways, putting limitations on yourself, to give yourself 5 minutes to solve a problem, and that's the final answer. The other way is keep it simple. And Dr. Seuss wrote Cat in the Hat with 236 words. His editor was blown away. So 236 words for a book? Like, you definitely can't write one shorter than that. He then went out and wrote Green Eggs and Ham, 50 words. One of the best-selling books of all time, 50 words. We have to ask ourselves, are we solving the right problem? Yesterday, I won't get into the whole thing, but we're all struggling with infrastructure. How do we fund it? How do we pay for it? We need more money. We got more taxes, got to get more grants, got to get more funding. What if we ask the question in reverse? What infrastructure don't we need? First rule of asset management. Do we need this? Ask, do you need that footbridge that nobody ever uses, but it looks pretty? So think about what we don't need. What can we afford to remove? Ask the citizens, out of all the things in Nanaimo, what one thing do you not use which you could take away? Well, the number 3 bus goes by every time with nobody on it. Okay, ask those questions, and you might find some really good ideas for your community. Final innovative slide. I love this from a marketing perspective. This was brilliant. The new shreddies, the diamond shreddies. There's YouTube videos out there, and it's hilarious. People have gone on the street, and they've given them 2 bowls. Which one do you like better? The diamond shreddies are better. The idea here is you don't have to come up with a new idea sometimes. Sometimes the right idea is the one right there staring at you in the face. Just turn it sideways and call it something else. I think Inspire Nanaimo is actually a diamond shreddy, isn't it? Doesn't it come from a different group of other things and you just turn it? Good. That's exactly what you need to do. Reinvent yourselves. Okay, making cities greater. I'm not going to get into the video. There's a great video, Mackenzie.com. I encourage you to go to it. Do I have the web link? Yeah. It talks about how we need to reinvent cities, what we need to do to rethink cities. The stats are pretty incredible. We all know that most of us are going to be living in cities in the future. It's a big growing problem, and I've been listening, watching, and reporting on cities and infrastructure for many years, and it's a constant in the successes that I've seen that successful cities aren't just about infrastructure and governance. It's about people. It's about leaders. Benevolent dictators, I call them. That's a whole other topic. I've written many articles about the need for bold leadership, and I think that is a key component to growing a city. And I went on your website, I went on the City of Nanaimo website, and I found a few things I wanted to kick around with you. I don't know if we have time for it, but from your October 2011 Chamber of Commerce document called Rethinking Nanaimo, Its Future as a Successful City, you outline 12 key elements. Connectivity, well, I've listed them there. I'm not going to repeat them, but on the connectivity side, this is my thought. How do transportation links work now in the city? Are 90,000 people truly connected? I'll just leave that with you. On a culture of collaboration, these fights over the dam, are they indicative of larger communication and collaboration issues? Maybe you can turn this into a positive. Maybe there's a silver lining here and get these groups together to talk about other issues besides the dam. Culture of innovation, like I just spoke about, we have to change perspectives, think of it different ways, try new things, and don't be afraid to fail. Distinctiveness. I was talking to Wally about this earlier. What makes Nanaimo Nanaimo? And I found this brochure. It's like, okay, that answers my question. Scuba diving. I'm an advanced scuba diver. I scuba dive all over the world. When I saw this, I had no idea that Nanaimo was the scuba diving capital of Canada. Didn't have a clue. You guys aren't marketing it enough. I got to come back now. That's a great piece. I encourage that. As a publisher, too, I really like that. How many boats per capita? That's a great stat. Do you know what it is? Because I saw so many masts out there in the harbor. You get some of those things out there. Let people know what Nanaimo is all about. Entrepreneurial governance. The country of Brunei, they don't have a gross domestic product. They have gross domestic happiness index. Maybe for fun, kick it around, ask everybody, on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you with Nanaimo? Get a gross happiness index. Master planning and community design. Is there a master plan? I couldn't find one on the website. Quality education. The university is here. My God, 90,000 people in Nanaimo and you have your own university. You are so lucky. There are a lot of communities in Canada who would kill to have a university in their city boundaries. So tell the world to come to university here. Quality of life. Nanaimo has that in spades. I've been here only 2 days and way more relaxed than if I was in Toronto. It's nice. Moving people here from Vancouver. I was talking to the cabbie and he says, oh yeah, people are coming over from Vancouver. They're selling their places for $600,000-$700,000 and they're coming here and they're buying the exact same house for half and spending the rest in the community. That's good. Why don't you do a big campaign in Vancouver? Tell people to sell their house and move to Nanaimo. Livability. I just want to let you know there's grants available for age-friendly community planning and project from the UBCM and Ministry of Health. I found that. I don't know if you've tapped into that, but application for 2014 grants are due on October 18th. I'll give that information to you guys. Social conscience. I mentioned this to Wally earlier, and I'm not trying to pick a fight or be critical, but I didn't see too many minorities on the street. I'm going to say it takes time. I mean, I come from Toronto. It's my norm to see a lot of minorities, so it's maybe something you might want to consider. I know Wally was mentioning the development of a Chinatown possibly here. That's a great idea. Go to the other minority groups that are in your community and ask them if they want to establish a town. Maybe it's just a building for now, but create those cultural areas within your community that will attract people. Sustainability. I don't like the word sustainability. I think I'd rather use the word smart or resilient. If somebody asks you, how is your marriage? You say, it's sustainable. It's just a really mediocre word. So I urge you to take that down as, smartness or resiliency or do something else than sustainability. Anyway, that's my personal campaign, is to wipe the word sustainability off the map. Hamera, a client of mine based in Vancouver, did some work for you here on brownfields. And I noticed walking around the community that you've got some brownfields. I know that they did a brownfield charrette here in 2011. Andrew Tucker. Is Andrew in the audience? And there he is. Keep working on those charrettes. Get some of those sites working, because that's really, from what I hear, has inspired some people. So I encourage you to keep on doing that. Vibrant economy. Taxi driver, another different taxi. I've taken a few taxis because I was out at the Ramada. Didn't realize how close it was. I could have walked. Taxi driver said there are no new jobs. Some of the young people he drives around are working 3 separate jobs, 2 or 3 hours at a time. That's not career developing work. So I don't know what the answer is to that, but it's just an observation. I pulled this off your website as well. I'm not sure how this document ties into some of your key elements, but I would dust this document off and look at how it ties into your 12 key elements. There's a lot of really good stuff in this document. I scanned through it. I'm an infrastructure junkie, so this is the first thing I gravitated to. And then I noticed on the website it says Nanaimo, quality city services through innovation. Don't really know what that means or how it is transferred to the community. And this is another little rant. I'm not going to get into it, but tempted. There's a commitment to full cost water pricing on the website, and to implement initiatives and opportunities consistent with the Blue Community designation. Those are 2 separate things. So you have full cost water pricing, but yet you've also said you want to have commitment to the Blue Community designation, where water is a right. Now, the folks at Council of Canadians think that everybody should get water for free. Well, what is the cost of transferring that water to them? What is the cost of treating that water? So I just look at, go to your website and look at things that might be contradictory like that. You want full cost pricing, but yet you want everybody to have water for free. So just consider that. Rest of it is a rant. I'm not going to go there. Okay, cities, more cities, positive stuff. This is the mayor of Bogota. His name is Antanas Mockus, and he's made great strides to educate and engage the citizens in civic reforms. He says, we need to create a society in which civility rules over cynicism and apathy. For example, he hired once 420 mimes to go into the streets of Bogota and ridicule people who broke the laws. If you jaywalked or you crossed when you're not supposed to. The mimes went in. Like, what an innovative idea. He reduced traffic fatalities by 50%. People didn't want the mimes in their face. He once took a televised shower, nationally televised shower. He got in a shower, televised. I'm sure they had, bits covered up, to emphasize water conservation. Bogota water usage dropped by 40%. So think of different things like that. Have big visions. I was on this Edmonton City Centre Airport Lands review panel, and the winner of that award was Perkins and Will, and they're going to build a 216-hectare city within a city. I wrote about it in an issue of Renew. And city leadership is needed to make these kind of controversial moves. Because a lot of people didn't want something like that there. They wanted the old airport there. Show me the money. How are we paying for all this? We each owe about $33,000 on our national debt of $1.1 trillion, and that's federally, and then we each then have a portion of our provincial and municipal debt. So we owe a lot of money. But we're not nearly as bad as the other parts of the world. Detroit is bankrupt. Calgary debt exceeds its revenues, but situations like that where they have the utilities separate from the city. So my point here is think of different ways to find money for your community. It's not always asking the bank or the government, and it's not always about adding more debt. That building is in Detroit. As I mentioned, Detroit has now gone bankrupt. Detroit's a great opportunity for people on the other side of the border to buy property. You can buy a house in Detroit now for 50 grand. It might look like that, but you own a house. Detroit population has declined by 25%. And I guess what I'm getting at here is where businesses leave, people leave. That's what happened in Detroit. The businesses left, the people left. You got that. Keep your businesses alive in Nanaimo. IBM Smarter Cities Challenge, I would urge you to apply for that. City of Waterloo, City of Surrey, that's a picture of it there. They presented at a recent conference in Toronto. And City of Surrey has got their award for incorporating data-driven strategies for targeting investments in early childhood education and health. Point is, they got money from IBM, and IBM's coming in and helping their community. I urge Nanaimo to do something similar. Smarter Cities Initiative is actually being announced tomorrow in Toronto at the Toronto waterfront. Again, IBM is involved, but they're not the only ones. You've got Cisco, Microsoft, all getting in on the smart cities thing. They've got money to spend. They're big companies. Ask them for it. There's pictures of Chicago. As I mentioned, I was recently in Chicago at the Meeting of Minds conference in Toronto recently. Mary Sue Barrett, she's the president of the Metropolitan Planning Council in Canada, said that when she sees smart places, they do at least 3 things well. They work simultaneously, they understand their assets, and they build strong partnerships. Do those 3 things. Add that to your mantra for Inspire Nanaimo. That was last week in Vancouver. Talk Vancouver. It's a new, in partnership with Vision Critical, it's a new online public consultation and citizen engagement community. Open to anyone over the age of 15 who lives, works, or attends school in the city. People who join the Talk Vancouver online community weigh in on important city issues by participating in online surveys and discussions. Absolutely get on board with that. Talk Nanaimo. Find out what the cost was, what the deal was with Vision Critical. Maybe you can ride in the coattails of what they did in Vancouver. Great way to engage your citizens. Instead of saying, we're going to do this and have everybody complain about it, have everybody connect the dots with you. I took these pictures yesterday. I love it. I love the fact you guys have painted all your hydro boxes. That was one of the highlights for me walking around the city yesterday. Do more of that. Why not inspire people to paint other things, do murals? One thing I noticed is that it's all done by the same guy. This King guy, is it? Yeah. Why not ask some of the people in the university, hey, you're an artist, do you want to paint that box? Do you paint that box? And have a little bit of a competition going. Get the media involved. Get the people who come off your cruise ships to vote on it. Like, have some sort of interactive guide. Love that, though. Thank you. Any questions? I do have to catch a flight at 5, but no, 5:30 or so. So, no, I'm here for you. This is stuff I live and breathe. So, ask me any kind of stupid question.
Can you stay here a little longer?
On council or?
Or just, hang out, live in the city for a while, and just so we can kind of sponge off some of the
Sure. Wally's got my coordinates. Happy to come back anytime.
Are you happy to go back to your slide that you went past about the infrastructure that said there's a little rant here? You got a little bit of time?
Which rant was that? Because I'm known to rant.
It was a slide on infrastructure.
with the waterfall.
I believe it's, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll go back. Yeah.
Probably back about 15 slides, 10, 15 slides.
Was the mowers closing on October 14th, you said? Your Braxville?
Okay. Well, I think it was more some of the contradictions I saw in the Nanaimo policies versus what you're actually doing. My point, I don't want to be critical here today. Every government has its challenges. Websites are not always kept up to date. So I'll just defer that maybe what you've got on your website versus what you're doing may contradict, but I would encourage you to look at that.
There was water for cost and it was blue communities.
Yes.
Water for cost is the staff and infrastructure management, blue communities is council. Two totally different paradigms.
Maybe they shouldn't be.
It's in the same book, but it's there. Staff are concerned with the cost of water and pipe delivery. Council wants to have water for people.
I don't think those should be separate. I think you should rationalize which one you want and go that way. No, okay, okay, I will, you're right. But I'm viscerally opposed to people like Maud Barlow who think that everything can happen just by waving a wand. My point with that was probably more along the lines of public-private partnerships. People have the perception that P3s are privatization. They are not. P3s are the public allowing its public utilities to be managed and operated by the private sector. You still own your water. You still own your water treatment facility. You still own the pipes. But you're having a private sector company do it for you. Professionally, long-term management.
Is there not those that the price of water is actually locked down on
In a P3? Well, that's going back to the true cost of water. I think water is too cheap. I think that's what they did in Bogota. You look at communities around the world, if you do an analysis of water price per gallon, per liter, whatever you want to do in countries, cities around the world, you will find our water is way cheaper than it should be. Gas is the same. What the hell are we doing paying $1.40, $1.30 for gas? Europe, they're paying $2.70 a liter for gas. It's not that they're getting it from anywhere different. It's just they've figured out the incentive for people to walk, transit, and bike is to charge more for gas, to pay the true cost. Pardon me?
What do they pay to buy for gas or nectar for gas?
Really cheap.
Yeah, really cheap.
But everybody should be charging the full cost of all commodities. I mean, cell phones are dirt cheap, but there's gold, there's molybdenum, there's precious metals in those phones, and what do you do with them? You recycle them. Eventually, that's going to catch up to us, too. I'm just saying we should look at what we're using and pay the true cost of it. Then all the environmental pieces would fit in afterwards. You have the true cost. I suggested in an editorial that we pay $2.50 for a liter of gas and earmark the difference between what we're paying now, $1.30, and the rest of it towards public transit and community initiatives where that gas is being pumped. I don't think there's a councillor or mayor anywhere who wouldn't like to have more gas tax revenues. Of course, there's going to be some problems. How do, lower income families pay for gas? Maybe they get special bus passes. I'm not saying I have all the answers, but going back to innovation and thinking outside the box, let's try some of these ideas, even if it's a model community. Why doesn't Nanaimo be the model community for trying $2.50 a liter gas and earmarking the difference? You really can't go anywhere else to get your gas. You're actually pretty good. Do you take the ferry across to get gas? But that's the funny part. I see that in Toronto sometimes too. There's actually an app, a gas price app, and people are driving across town to save 5 cents a liter on gas. Like, really? And then lining up. Yeah. Yeah. Antarctica. Oh, thanks for changing the topic. I love Antarctica as a topic. Robert Swan is the first person in history to walk to both poles. He's Order of the British Empire. He's a Brit. And I met him at a conference in Banff, in 2010. And he gave one of the most inspiring presentations I've ever given, that Antarctica is the only continent that is not owned by anybody. Nobody lives there. Nobody has rights to it. It is the only place on the planet which we all own. We are all citizens of Antarctica. But it's neglected. And in 2041, which is what he's based his company and organization from, is the year that the treaty expires. And he's worried, and I'm worried, and everybody else who's with him is worried that in 2041, the multinational oil and gas companies are going to come in and turn Antarctica into the North Sea. Or worse. Yes?
How would you rate the natural environment of the city and, say, perhaps Nanaimo, your observations about trees, tree preservation, tree protection, tree planting, etc.?
I mentioned to Wally when we were looking at that park there, what's that with the museum, beside where the hotel's going to go? That's the first time I've seen old growth trees in the city. I think that's the only old growth tree I've seen. I mean, when I say old growth, it's probably only 150, 200 years old, but only. But I didn't see any other old growth trees, so that was one thing I Obviously, there's nothing you can do about that now, but I would encourage you to take a look at your inventory. The City of Ottawa actually talked about asset management. City of Ottawa has counted all their trees. They now have trees as part of their asset management plan. So you know all kilometers of road, you know how many meters of pipe you have. Ottawa knows exactly how many trees they have and where they are.
Vancouver City has done that years ago. In fact, I know one of the people involved in that project, Justice, who's one of the pioneer landscape architects in Vancouver, who's part of that program. And so they do know the name or the type and variety of every tree on every block throughout the entire city. And they're monitoring, they plant 150,000 trees a year to keep up the greenery.
Yeah.
But we don't do anything like that here.
Well, probably because you're spoiled. You have a lot of trees. You're looking over an island that is populated with lots of trees. Put trees on your asset management plan. Count them. Use those RF tags. Just stick them on the tree, and you can actually walk around with a sensor and figure out where they are.
Are you familiar with the Makerspace photospace movement?
Sort of the
Makerspace photospace movement?
no, I'm not.
Or the global hacker movement?
The hacker movement. Yeah. Okay.
We're developing one here in Nanaimo, so we're going to see what comes of that.
That's good. Communicate that to people. Put it. I haven't been on the Nanaimo Facebook page or anything, but those kinds of things for us in the media world, we love finding that and disseminating it. So keep me informed on that.
I was just interested in your comment about Detroit. It strikes me that Detroit's problem is not so much businesses with corporations, and then businesses have to follow. I'd be interested in your comments on the significance of the corporation in managing the city.
That in Nanaimo, you had coal, you had pulp and paper, and you had what was the other industry? Sorry, I wrote it down. Was it? Fisheries. Yeah, you had a big fishery. So all three of those are virtually non-existent now, right? But you've adapted. You've created a new tourism industry. You've got different industries coming in. So I think that was the key. Detroit didn't do that soon enough. They didn't retool. They didn't reinvent before things got really slippery. And they also had a different problem with their pensions. All the city workers in Detroit were stuck with pensions. And of course, when there's nobody living there, there's no taxes coming in, all of a sudden it just goes, and people were just walking away from their houses. And that was part of the whole financial crisis that luckily we were spared, sort of. Thank you, everybody. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Send me your stories. I left my Todd at actualmedia.ca. Might publish it.